episode number 57, with Carlos Welch. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
This is Carlos Welch.
How the hell you doing, Carlos? You twitching right now?
I am twitching as we speak.
Awesome. What are you doing? Are you playing poker? Are you doing a hand history review? Or
You know what, man? I'm doing a hand history review. My plan was to play poker, so I started streaming this morning. And I did a tournament on Bovada, and I realized that overnight Bovada did a update. And so the software looks slightly different, and I don't see any improvements. But what happens when they do that is it screws up all the behind-the-scenes stuff for the people who make the HUDs. So now none of the HUDs work on Bovada. So it's gonna take like a week or so for the HUD makers to adjust to the new update. And so I decided I won't be playing on Bovada again until that happens. And I looked for something to play on America's Card Room during the interview that we're about to do. And just the offerings on Bovada on America's Card Room at this time of day are like $500 guaranteed. I'm not even going to play that.
Yeah, little $3 and $5 tournaments.
Right. So instead, I decided to just do a review of a hand history. And I just got the thought, I should have did this earlier, but the thought just crossed my mind to like look for an interesting hand in here, because I'm assuming maybe at some point you may ask me if I have a hand to discuss, and it would be cool if we can, like the viewers in chat can actually see the hand as we're discussing it with all the information there. We're not pulling the stuff from memory.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'd be neat. Oh, we should probably fill everyone in. Mike is on a little hiatus. He's got a project that he's working on right now. He's working on a documentary. And it looks like Carlos and I are going to be partners in crime on that. Has he convinced you yet to come out to California for this, or are you still on the fence, or what?
I was under the he didn't say this to me, but I asked him, had he talked about this at all on the podcast yet? And I don't think he has. And I was wondering, like, is this supposed to be like under wraps? But I guess
I talked to him this morning, and I'm like, "So are you coming on the podcast today, or like what's going on?" And he's all, "Dude, I have so much stuff. I got to meet with the editor. I got to do this. I got to do that." I'm like, "All right, okay. You can get your stuff together, and we'll work out something for the next month or so." And so he seems super excited. I guess he's going to try to do at least 3 episodes. The first one's going to be with him and one of his buddies, one of the cash pros. And then I think the second episode, he wants you to come out. And then the third episode, he wants the 3 of us to go, and he wants me to show you guys how to some pickup artist stuff or something. I don't know. He was talking 100 miles an hour, but it sounded pretty interesting.
He tends to do that.
He does.
I guess my question is, like, do you know if I guess it's out there now. We're talking about it on the podcast.
Well, I asked him. I said, "Do you mind if we talk about it on the podcast? Because I'm not going to be able to shut up about this." And he's like, "Yeah, go for it."
Okay, cool. See, I hadn't talked about it, so that's good to know. So now I can let my people in the Twitch chat right now know that that's something we're going to be doing. So I'm going to be going out in February after PCA. I'm going to be driving the Knitmobile, hopefully if it makes it that far, to California to participate in a documentary about poker with Mike Snyderman and Steve Barton from the Heads Up Poker podcast. So that's what we're talking about, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think it'll be cool. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I think he was even talking to Clayton Fletcher and getting some advice from him, because I don't know if you heard the Clayton Fletcher episode, but he was talking about doing the same kind of thing, and bringing Mike into the club to do a comedy routine and like that. So I don't know. It should be interesting. I'm curious to see where this goes. Oh, we got some other big news here. We have an editor for the podcast. Her name's Sarah. Welcome to the team, Sarah. We got a little bit of feedback on that. One of the fans, he goes by the mental case. He writes in our blog every week, and he says, "I'm glad you decided on hiring an editor. In the episode with Darius Studdard, number 36, featured a few farts towards the end which were not edited out. So far, the culprit has yet to step to the plate and admit their guilt. If I was a betting man, my first instinct leads towards Mike. Since he's here not to defend himself, I highly agree, as the guilty party, with Darius second and Steve a distant third. I agree.
That is some intense listening if he picked up on it. I've read that guy's comments on a couple of occasions. He's pretty funny.
He is. I got another letter from Thomas. He says, Hi, Mr. Barton. I'm a fan of your Heads Up Poker podcast. I really like it. Please keep doing it. Don't give up. You finally made a whole year. But I just listened to episode 51 where you're talking about girls. I think that it was your best podcast, even if you probably don't think so. But I'm writing you about one thing I noticed there. In one moment, you said that your worst experience is from Prague. I live in Prague. I've lived in Prague my whole life, and I can't get it out of my head. I just need to know what happened to you there. Can you please tell me that or mention it in a podcast or something? Thank you very much, Thomas. Well, Thomas, I don't remember telling this story specifically on the podcast, but I must have because it stuck with you. My buddy and I went to Europe, and we toured Europe we kind of did a snapshot of Europe. We went through Italy and Czech Republic, and one of our stops was Prague. We were there for a couple of days. Anyways, I found out that you guys had a poker room, and I'm sorry to say I saw very little of your city except for the, trying to pronounce this right, it's like the Vltava River. We took a boat on that, and the rest of the time I just spent in the poker room. And anyhow, I was playing your guys' equivalent of 1-2, and I remember one hand specifically that two guys started getting in it. And one guy stood up and started threatening and pointing fingers, and then the other guy stood up and started threatening and pointing fingers, and they were yelling at each other, and they were talking in Czech, so I have no idea what they were saying, but, you know, it's whether you speak the language or not, it's pretty easy to tell if a few F-bombs and FUs are getting thrown around. And after that, I picked up my chips and cashed out. I mean, and the strange part about it was the staff at the casino, the card room, they didn't do anything. It was like the pit boss was just kind of standing there pretending like it wasn't happening. The dealer continued to just shuffle the cards and deal them out while these two guys are just going at it for minutes. And anyways, it got really uncomfortable, and I thought it was going to go to blows, and then there might be chairs flying and stuff, so I went out. So it wasn't, I guess, a bad experience with your city or your country. It was just a really intimidating time at the poker table. It was probably the scariest moment I've ever had playing cards. But yeah, that was it. So I'd highly recommend the country. It's very beautiful. And it was just that one moment in the card room.
Man, that's intense.
It was, yeah. I thought for sure we're going to have some chairs flying or something. But the strangest part was that the dealer and the casino staff, nobody said anything or even acknowledged that it was going on. It was like, if I don't look, it's not there. It was really weird.
Right.
Anyhow, so what's new with you as far as poker? How's the Twitch going? And how's the Knitmobile and everything?
Twitch is going well. I had some pretty good streams lately. As far as poker, I've been making a lot of deep runs, but I haven't won anything in a while. It's like I'm constantly cashing and constantly getting top 18s. And I've made a couple of final tables, but I think this year, and I know it's only a week, but this year I've had a fifth, and that's the highest I've cashed. But in this first week of 2016, I've probably had 3 final tables and probably 7 top 18s. So I'm getting deep, but just not closing out.
Yeah, I haven't. How many tournaments have you played? I know it's only been a week, but
not many. Maybe if I had to guess, in a week, maybe somewhere between 50 and 70. Okay, all right. Not a huge sample, but yeah, I've probably played 30, so not a real big. I got a second, and I got a fourth, and a fifth. I was right there, the second I lost to a coin flip. I don't remember if I had the pair or the overcards or he did, but it was basically an all-in for all the chips. The other guy would have had half a big blind. No. So, right. You know what? I was thinking, I'm looking through this tournament. I'm looking at a Bovada 8K that I played 3 days ago. I ended up getting 13th in that. And I'm going through the hands looking for a hand to discuss. I haven't found anything really interesting yet. But when you talked about you playing on ACR, I remember that tournament that you and I played together. And I was like, man, it would be real cool if we could find a hand from that tournament. But I think it would be kind of tough to do at this point.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a session with, like a study session with Doug Lyford yesterday. And there was a couple of hands that we were looking through. We're going over my weakness right now by position. Once we get down to at 41 to 60 big blinds, I'm winning 3.5 bigs per 100. At 26 to 40, I'm winning 5 bigs per 100. Then at 16 to 25, I'm kicking ass and I'm winning over 7.5. And then 11 to 15, I'm minus half a big blind. And then at 0 to 10, I'm plus 1.5. So we're taking a whole bunch of hands from 11 to 15 big blind range. And there was a couple of times where it was like, okay, should I shove here? And then like, probably not. Carlos opened under the gun. Like, okay, you were in the hand.
That's a good point. That came up on stream today during one of my hand history reviews. I opened under the gun, and this guy shoves like 12. I think it was like 12 bigs from middle position with ace jack offsuit. And I had ace queen, and he ended up hitting a jack on the river and beating me. And then while analyzing that hand, like people in chat, when it happened, people were like, oh man, how do you not get upset when that guy rivers you like that? Because I really did. I just went on to the next hand and even comment on it. Wasn't affected at all. And I was explaining to them that I don't keep score based on results. I basically go by Tommy Angelo's theory of reciprocity, which basically means if I play my hand better than that guy would have played my hand, or if he plays his hand worse than I would have played his hand, then I win regardless of the result. And so in that particular hand, against me and my under the gun range, I don't think ace jack offsuit is a 3-bet shove in that spot, because I'm not opening. Basically, I'm only opening like ace 10 suited. That's like the worst hand in my range that's like the only hand in my range that this guy dominates, and everything else either dominates him or he's flipping with. And so I think regardless that he sucked out on me on the river, he obviously don't know me enough to fold in that spot, but you know what my under the gun range is. So, yeah. So you and I would have played his hand better than he played it. And so we win the battle of reciprocity, and the results don't matter.
It was I think it was ace 10 suited was my hand. And I had like 10 or 11 bigs, and you had opened, it was either UTG or no, I think it was UTG, because Doug's like, no, that's Carlos. He's under the gun. So
yeah.
And I didn't shove it.
Good job. Good job.
But I have seen you, though, and I'll never forget this one. I remember you opened 2-3 suited from, like, the cutoff to steal the blinds. Anyways, you end up getting in on the flop because you flopped, like, a straight flush draw or something like that. And when the money got in, the other guy had, like, sevens for an overpair or something. And I thought to myself, wow. I haven't seen that from him before. That was interesting. Did not expect you to have 2-3 there.
Yeah.
So later, in late position, you open up your game quite a bit.
Yeah, which I think is theoretically what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I just didn't think you were that wide. I'm like, okay, note to self when I have Carlos on my right.
It's all based on other player tendencies. So for me to open that, the big blind and the button and the small blind must have been some pretty tight players or pretty straightforward players post flop.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking with Doug yesterday about this. I'm like, I think we were talking about it on podcast. I can't remember, but I was saying, there's always that interesting dynamic when I'm playing with Dougie Fresh, or when I'm playing with you, or Derek's at the table, or speaking of which, I got a hand from Derek here. I want to get your opinion on it.
Okay.
There's always that interesting dynamic when the other guys are there and you're like, we talked about this on podcast. We talked about that very dynamic. Like right now, we're talking about like how tight you are under the gun. And I'm like, then a situation will come up like that. And you'd be like, well, I know that he knows that we talked about it, and he knows that I know that we talked about it. Like, are we both thinking about that right now? I'm sure we are. Okay, what extra level or dynamic does that add to it the next time we're at the table,
Right.
It's cool. But let's see if I can find this one here.
There was a hand that, like, you and I played a tournament together a couple of days ago, and I played this big hand where I stacked the guy on my left, and I guess you kind of looked away. Maybe you were playing other tables or whatever, and then you kind of looked back and saw how many chips I had, and then you hit me up on Skype and was like, holy shit, like, you know, do you have enough chips?
Yeah.
And I asked you if you saw that hand, but you said you missed it. And that's a hand that I would, that would be a good one to discuss on a podcast. But unfortunately, it was on ACR, and I would have to dig through the database to find it. But maybe that's worth finding. I mean, maybe if I can find like a spare moment here, I may look for that one.
Yeah, let's see. What I'll pull up the chat right here. And what day did...
oh, yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Stream logically using Skype. It might come on with the Saurus.
Let's see, because I closed my HUD earlier when I realized nothing was working on Bovada. So I'll open that back up and look for it.
So, damn, dog, you think you have enough chips in the 25K? You see the aces hand? I felt that coming. Okay, that was Sunday, so that's...
a 25K on Sunday. Okay, so that's what I'll look for.
Sunday was the 3rd.
Okay. All right, so while you're looking for, did you find Derek's hand yet?
I found Derek's hand, yeah. Okay, it's fairly simple, but I think it should spur a little bit of discussion. Okay, I've got, Derek is on my right, okay? He's under the gun +2, and then I'm right behind him, so I'm under the gun +3.
What I'll do when I'm listening to a hand on a podcast, I will type it into like a notepad, and I just want to pull up my notepad for the people in chat so they can see it as well.
Okay.
So, and I do Twitch completely different from most people. I don't use I don't show my whole monitor. So if I want to show something new, I can't just slide it in the view. I gotta like actually go back and add a different source, I think it's called. But have you ever tried twitching, Steve?
No, I haven't. I've seen you twitch, but I've never done it myself.
Okay, so for people who do Twitch, they know what I mean when I say add a new source. So that's what I'm doing now. All right, so I think we're good to go. It's kind of small. I don't know if they'll be able to read it, but all right, start from the top with the hand.
Okay. So we got, let's see. Okay, Derek is under the gun +2, and I'm under the gun +3, so I'm right behind him. I'm just to his left. And we all know how tight Derek is, right?
Right.
So he opens up. He opens the 3X, 900. Blind levels are 150, 300. Total pot before he opens is 690. He raises to 3X, and I'm right behind him with pocket nines. I have 23 bigs.
All right, so this is post ante. So, all right, so he opens 3X from UTG2 at 150-300, and you are right behind him.
UTG3, yeah.
With what hand?
9-9, pocket nines.
All right. What are stacks?
He has 28 big blinds. I have 23. So he's got 7,000. I'm sorry. To start the hand, he's got 8,300. I have 7,000.
Okay.
What are you thinking here?
Honestly, I am folding.
Folding?
I'm folding pre-flop. Oh, you said 83,000 and not 8,300.
I'm sorry, 8,300, and I have 7,000.
And he made it 900.
And he made it 900.
Yeah, I'm definitely folding. It's more than 10% of your stack. And so, and you're kind of in an awkward spot. I mean, first off, if I got these numbers right, it's more than 10% of your stack.
You're right.
And you're in an awkward spot for set mining in general. And even if you were getting good odds to set mine, you're like not closing the action. There's tons of people behind you that can squeeze you out. And so basically, if you're going to play this hand, you got to play it for pure value, which I don't necessarily want to play nines for pure value against KBs under the gun range. Very similar to the reason you didn't want to play the ace-10 suited against my under the gun range.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess what you will have to think about here is not only are you having to contend with his tight range in this spot, you also got, like, the whole table behind you.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you, well, let's say, what do you think his range is in this spot?
I think in this spot, I think he's probably doing this with ace-10 suited and above. Probably not even, I was thinking ace-jack offsuit. He's probably not doing that with. Ace-jack suited, I would think. Ace-queen off and above. And as far as pairs, I would say probably... See, you know what it is? It's his sizing. He made it 3x. And I think normally here at this blind level, I think he's making it like, 750 or something with kind of his mediocre hands. I kind of hate talking about this on podcasts because I'm giving away a tell I have on him, and if he listens to it, he's going to stop. But
it's kind of a standard tell, though.
It's
not something specific to him. A lot of people play this way.
Yeah, but I think if he had if he was kind of messing around with like pocket fives or something, he's more likely to make it 750. And if he's got something like aces or kings, he's probably raising it to 900. If he has ace king, if he has ace queen suited, stuff like that, that to me screams a big hand.
Right.
Okay.
So with that being the case, nines do not do well against that range. Like I'm thinking, like when I see people increase their bet size, their open raise size, it's something that's not like the top. It's probably not like kings or aces, but it's very rarely a bluff. It's somewhere in the middle. So I'm thinking something like nines through like queens at best, and probably ace king, maybe ace queen.
Okay.
And so like I don't know if he does this with ace 10 suited.
Okay. I don't think he makes it this big.
Yeah, I definitely think he opens ace 10 suited here, but like you said, based on the if we're going to go off of the bet size and tell, if we're going to agree that raising bigger here strengthens his range, then the hands in the bottom part of that range, I guess by definition, drop out.
Yeah, okay. I agree.
Let's just start off leaving it in, though. So we got ace 10 suited plus, ace queen off plus. Which pairs do you think he opens like this?
This sizing, probably nines plus.
Right.
Yeah.
So
maybe eights, but I think that might be a little stretch. I think he would make it smaller with eights. I think he'd make it like 800.
Right. I mean, so against this range, we're kind of in bad shape.
Yes. Kind of is an understatement.
Yeah. And so if we're in bad shape against the range, that would be fine if we could set mine. But based on the price we have to pay to set mine in the position we're in, even that's not an option. So I guess this is what leads me to a fold.
Yeah, I agree. And that's exactly what I should have done.
Gotcha.
But I did not.
So as played?
I shoved. And,
okay.
With 23 bigs, I was like, am I really folding nines here? And it was one of those things where I was on the final table of another tournament and I just not focused and not playing my A game at all. And
right.
Anyways, I shoved and he woke up with kings.
Yeah.
So that was a lesson learned.
But guess what, though? I definitely did not. I wouldn't have put kings in his range. Okay. At the top, I would have expected like queens.
Okay.
So for him to 3x with kings here, that was kind of a little tricky. Maybe he knows about the reverse tail you got, about that tail you have, and he threw you a reverse tail.
Maybe.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't put him on kings.
Yeah. I thought he was strong, but I didn't know he was that strong. But
right. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, you know what? I wonder if something like when you say, I think he's strong, but he's not that strong, like do you think at any point you were thinking maybe you could like get him off of something like ace queen or like a ace jack or ace 10 suited?
I'm trying to think. In game, I think I was thinking his range was a lot wider. I remember thinking like, okay, I know he'll open in, I wasn't taking into account his sizing.
Gotcha.
And since then, I've gone back and reviewed a bunch of hands that I play with him, and I picked up that pattern.
Gotcha.
It's like I like doing that with players that I play with a lot. Going through, and Mark taught me that you go through, and there's a way to filter it on on your Hold'em manager, and you can just type in their name, and then you can run through all the 1,200 hands that you played with a guy, and after seeing 1,200 hands, you're going to pick up a pattern on something, and you can capitalize on it. So
right
afterwards, I went through, and I'm like, holy shit. So if you're listening, Derek, yeah, you need to stop doing that. If you're not, then now I know. And
right.
But that was definitely a pattern, was with the smaller hands, or with the weaker hands in earlier position, he's making a smaller sizing. Like once the antes have kicked in, he's making it like 2.5. I never saw him go really below that, though. And then with the bigger hands, he's just 3xing it. So it's obvious now. But at the time, I was thinking his range was like 4s plus, ace-10 suited plus, and then maybe a bunch of like jack-10s and queen-jack and king-queen and all that stuff. And so that's why I shoved. But afterwards, and after doing the review, that was a mistake.
Gotcha. Okay, I found that hand from the tournament that you and I played together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have my stream up, the Twitch stream. Yeah, because I can show you the hand in the replayer.
Okay, I got your screen up. Okay,
I'm trying to get it to where it, oh, God. I'm trying to use the HUD, but I got Assassinat. I'll show you guys this stuff on Twitch. This is like background stuff that I would normally do before I put it on screen, but I think it's pretty fun to let people see the process. I was going to use that horrible analogy Assassinato uses, where he says, I'll show people how the fudge is packed. That one I'm not going to say. But I'll show people how the podcast is made. How about that? That sounds a little bit better to me. All right, so this is the hand. Let me make it bigger. It may be a little bit of a delay.
Okay.
So let me know when you can see the hand.
Okay. All right. Right now I see the, it looks like something's coming up.
Okay, great. You guys can't see the HUD anyway, so that's fine.
Oh, does it block out the HUD on Twitch?
Yeah.
Wow. How's it do that?
It shows, you can set it up to show the entire window or just the inner window, and also you can show overlays or not. So the HUD is basically an overlay on top of the table. And if you show, this is why, if you do monitor capture, again, this is like behind the scenes stuff for people who stream on Twitch. If you set up your Twitch stream as a monitor capture, it shows everything on your monitor. If you set it up as a window capture, which is how I have it set up, it only shows the windows that you tell it to show. Huh. And because I have mine set up on window capture, I'm showing the window that has the table, but I'm not showing the overlay on that table. So that's how I get away with not showing that.
Okay, yeah, because it's basically just another layer that goes on that screen, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But monitor capture, you will see everything.
Okay.
So can you see the hand?
There we are. Okay, yeah, I'm in the big blind, and you're 2 to my left, yeah.
Right. So for the people in chat, Sagaba is Steve.
That's me.
All right. So in this hand, I'm trying to.
Okay.
All right. So in this hand, I get aces, UTG +2. I have 61 bigs, and I open under the gun. Now I don't know if Steve. There's no way Steve's gonna remember this, but this guy on my left, Shark Attack, was playing a ton of hands, and I felt like he was specifically coming after me because I think I beat him in a hand or something. And so he flats off of, what is that? A little bit over 40 bigs, so like 43 bigs. He flats off of 43 bigs in UTG +3. So I'm UTG +2. He's UTG +3. And we're like 43 bigs deep. So right away, well, let's go to the action first. Oh, and then Steve is in the big blind, and he completes.
I was going to say, I'm sure I complete, right?
Right.
Getting like 9-1 or whatever it is.
Right. And so Steve has 23 bigs before he completes, I think. Yeah. All right. So first off, what is this guy's flatting range in the early position, you think?
What are his numbers? Are you able to see?
Oh, yeah, I can see his HUD numbers. 1911, and he cold calls 13% of the time. And because I'm using the Assassinato HUD, I can kind of see position-wise where he plays hands from. He seems to play more hands from, at least at this point in the tournament, and I only have 64 hands on him, but he's played so far more hands in early position than he has in middle position. But maybe that's because of the sample size, maybe that's not that useful. Just say he's running 1916. So a guy who's playing 1916, what do you expect him to be flatting here?
Okay, I would
42
say
bigs.
Pairs, probably not deuces. What else would I put in there? Probably weak aces, although you block those. I was going to say any aces, king, queen, queen, jack, jack 10, probably suited. And I'm just going off 1916. But I know it's not a big sample. He could have just been getting crap that whole time. But off of those specific numbers, I would say like jack 10 suited, queen, jack suited, king, queen off, king, queen suited, ace 10 off plus, and I'll put suited aces down, all the way down.
Gotcha.
Something like that.
So we got an idea of what his range should be. I see bet the flop, half pot. Okay, he calls. Steve folds, which is why Steve didn't see this hand when I asked him about it afterwards, because he probably just folded a hand and then went on to something else.
Yeah, I probably had like 8-5 or something and just dumped it and don't even remember.
Right. So he calls on the flop, and given that he called the flop, so what do we think he calls the flop with?
Okay, what would he call there with and not raise? Probably 2 hearts, obviously.
Yep.
What's that?
I say yep.
Okay. 2 hearts, probably. What else would he do that with? Maybe overs, like king, queen, ace, queen, ace, king. Although you block those. He'd do that with a set. Is he raising there with a set on that board?
I feel like the board is dry enough where I probably wouldn't raise a set.
Yeah.
I don't think I gave away anything by my bet sizing. Like a lot of people, if they had a set, if they had like aces on this board, they would, like I'm betting half pot here with aces or ace king or whatever. Mm-hmm. If I was the type of player that would have a bet sizing tail where I would bigger with an overpair on a board like this, then I can see raising a set. Since I haven't revealed anything about my hand yet, in villain shoes, I would just flat with a set. So yeah, hearts.
I was thinking maybe 6s, 7s, and 8s. He might flat you there, like one street, just to see if you shut down on the turn.
Yep, I can see that, and that's something I do also, especially in a case like this where I can turn like some more equity with like a backdoor straight.
Yeah.
So I can see all those hands.
I'm trying to think like 10s, jacks, queens, kings, and aces. I think he might flat there with kings. Probably not queens, jacks, or 10s. I think he's raising with those. So I want to say we can kind of take those out of his range.
I agree.
But I think we can keep the very rare chance that he has aces in his hand and the rare time that he has kings. I think we can keep those in there. Ace, king, ace, queen, overs, like that. Okay.
Any 9X combos?
Any what?
9X combos.
Oh, 9X. Maybe ace 9 suited. I would be surprised here if, of course, it's such a small sample, but I would be surprised if he had something like 9-10 or, no, actually 9-10 suited. I wouldn't be too surprised about that. Right. That's probably about the 8-9, maybe. That might make sense. 8-9 suited, a 9-10 suited.
Okay. But
Jack 9, I think, might be a stretch, especially for 1916.
Right. All right, so I think that's a pretty good range. And so we turn, the turn is a heart. And normally I would not bet this card, but against this particular player, like I mentioned earlier, I kind of felt like he was, as Mark used to say in his TPE videos, he has a boner for me. So I felt like I could still get value from this guy with a lot of those hands you mentioned in his range. I don't put him on a flush just because the flush card got there. If he does have a 9, he's still calling. He's still calling with a lot of the pocket pairs that we mentioned, especially like I was gonna say like nothing picked up a straight draw. Like say if he had pocket 6s and the turn was a 7, he would have picked up a gutter. But because it's an 8, that didn't help him at all. But I feel like any pair he's not folding, and any unpaired hand that contains a heart, he's not folding. And I also feel like if he has a flush, he's probably gonna just raise it. Like I may fold to a raise here, but I don't know against this dude. So I bet half pot again.
You bet half pot again. Yeah, just so to reiterate on the podcast, Carlos has ace, villains to his left, and the board now is 9 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of hearts, 3 of spades. And he bets half pot, so he bets 22,200 into a pot of 44,400.
I think it was this podcast that I heard. I noticed how you retold the hand. You like rearranged the cards in descending order.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I think in this particular hand, it's kind of relevant that the 8 of hearts came on the turn, so there was not. So a flush draw came in on the turn is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. So the flop was 9 of hearts, 4 of hearts, 3 of spades, and the turn it's the 8 of hearts.
Right. And then I bet half pot, as Steve said, on the 8 of hearts. And the guy calls again. All right. So on the river, there's now basically 90K in the pot. And villain has 90K behind. I have 145K. So pot size bet left, basically. And the river is the 10 of hearts. Probably one of the worst cards in the deck, right? I'm trying to think of a worse one, and I can't. Yeah. So this spot comes up, and at this point, we
because you obviously don't have the ace of hearts. You get the ace of clubs, ace of spades. So
right. Without the ace of hearts, I mean, I guess we have nothing left to do in this spot but check, right?
I don't think I'm ever betting here.
Right.
Unless it's I was going to say like the river min bet. I'm trying to think if that would accomplish anything. No, I think I'm checking.
See, I've heard people discuss the river min bet, and I like it, but the reason I don't do those bets often is because I'm not disciplined enough. Like if I bet like that and somebody raises me, I'm going to just assume, I induced that raise with my small bet size, and I'm not disciplined enough to fold to the raise.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good weapon against the right player, but I think you got to have discipline to use it. And I know, like, I'm not disciplined to use it. I'm not disciplined enough to use it. But I do like the thought, though. That thought didn't occur to me in this tournament. So I decided to check, and villain shoves.
What's the pot now, and how much does he shove?
So the pot was 88,800, and he shoved 90K. Right. So basically a pot size shove.
Okay. So the final board. The flop was 9 of hearts, 4 of hearts, 3 of spades. Turn was the 8 of hearts, and river was the 10 of hearts. Of his range, I mean, we're beating... he's not doing that with 2 pair, I don't think. He's just checking behind it and
right,
hoping you don't have a heart. He's not doing that with a set. He's checking behind and hoping you don't have a heart. He's... whatever he's got, he's either turning his... what was probably a value hand into a bluff, or he really had the ace queen of hearts and backdoored there or something.
Right. See, I'm thinking like I can kind of see, even then, like I'm thinking like ace queen of hearts. So he would have had the nuts on the turn. Like, do you think he just calls the turn with that?
With the ace queen of hearts, does he just call?
I mean, I guess that
with
makes
the ace
sense.
of hearts, you mean?
Well, like with the flush, like if he has ace queen suited, does he just call when he makes the flush on the turn? I can see it,
yeah,
because I just talked about how if he raises me on the turn, I'm going to put him on a better hand and fold. Yeah. So I can see him just calling there. What about worse flushes? Like, say if he's in this spot with, I don't know. See, most of them are blocked by the board, so it's hard. They're either blocked by the board or their hands he wouldn't play pre-flop, like 7-6 of hearts.
Exactly. Yeah, like, that's what I was thinking. So the flushes is he really shoving a jack of hearts there? Is he really shoving the queen of hearts there?
Right.
I think he's only shoving like the king of hearts and the ace of hearts. So what combos pre-flop give that in his range? Kings? You block the aces, but...
So I'm assuming he's going to re-raise pre with kings and also with aces. So if we want to look at the ace of hearts and the king of hearts, we got to look at unpaired combos. So like ace king, does he float the flop with ace king with just the ace of hearts, ace king offsuit?
Probably not.
Okay. So if he's not doing with ace kings,
actually he might. But would he? He definitely might too, unless he backdoored, unless he picked up some equity on the turn.
If he has ace king with the ace of hearts, then he would have picked up the nut flush draw on the turn. So that kind of makes sense. So I guess if you're going to say that about ace king, maybe he also floats ace queen. I don't know if he calls pre with ace jack. So let's say like ace king and ace queen, both with the ace of hearts. And king, queen, does he float the flop with king, queen, with the king of hearts?
He could. I don't know, man. This is tough. I mean, it's tough because I know the end result, but there's so many hands in his range that I'm putting in there that could have I mean, it's obviously just a complete bluff or nothing, and
that's what I'm getting at. It's like a complete bluff or nothing because all the strong hands that don't contain...
the nuts are a complete bluff is what I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the strong hands that we had in his range that don't contain the ace of hearts or the king of hearts would be checking back on this river for the most part. He could maybe get crazy with the queen of hearts, but a lot of people checking back. Very few people are betting a jack here.
I don't think they're betting a jack like that.
Right.
They're either checking behind or they're doing like some cute little value bet, I think, into 90K, they're probably doing something like 30, 25, something like that.
But you know what? Even with the king of hearts or the ace of hearts, it's basically the same thing because my hand looks like I don't have a heart. So if you have the nuts here, why would you bet an amount that looks like you don't want me to call?
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah, if I'm this guy and I have the ace of hearts, I'm betting like 30K right here or something. I thought the hand through and I'm thinking like, I beat nothing. But he's betting like he has nothing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I beat what he's betting and I decided to click the call button. I guess this one he shows up with the king of diamonds and the 9 of diamonds.
Interesting. King 9 suited. Okay.
Right.
I didn't put that in his range. I put ace 9.
Yeah.
But not king 9.
Right.
Okay.
I definitely didn't have king 9 suited in his range, but I normally, against most people, I'm definitely folding here. But like I mentioned earlier, I felt like the guy had a boner for me. Yeah. And so I was like, he only flatted that hand in early position just so he can try to take it away from me at some point post-flop. So that was in the back of my mind. And then I thought through the hand on the river, just the same process we just did. And I'm thinking like, the only hands he would bet here is the ace of hearts or a king of hearts, and he would not bet those hands for that amount. And so that basically gave it away. And then I made that call. And then like a couple of hands later, you saw my stack, and then you sent me that Skype message. and asked me if I had enough chips. Yeah, so that was a hand I was asking you if you saw. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Right on.
So somebody asked a good question. They said, would I have folded to a 30K bet on the river? And I think I probably would have. And also somebody asked me if I thought his line, somebody says, oh, let's give him some love. VA Venom says, yeah, his line looks like a bluff, but can you say that this is very read dependent? I definitely think it's read dependent because some people aren't capable of bluffing. And I felt like this guy has, the HUD stats that we mentioned don't say a lot about it, but I definitely felt like he could be bluffing in this spot.
Yeah. Right on.
But not most people wouldn't be bluffing in this spot. So I would fold this to a lot of people. But just the size and he took on the river, that kind of gave it away.
I like that. I think I know I would have folded to like a 25 or 30K bet. I don't think. For 25 or 30K, I think I'm folding. Even though you're getting a great price, I mean, it just looks so value-y, But for a shove there, I think I would have folded too. I don't think I would have had the wherewithal to think it through like you did and call. But that was a good call, man. I don't think I could have made that.
And thank you to V. Hearn and Chaka Bagad. I always screw up that name. These are Twitch names for participating in the conversation about this hand. Make sure you guys listen to the Heads Up Poker podcast when this episode comes out to see your names and lights. You're all famous now.
Right on. This is if you go to HeadsUpPoker.Poker, you'll see a list of all our episodes. This one will be out on the 11th. But anyways, thank you for coming on, Carlos. That was cool. Some neat hands.
Oh, yeah. This one I think was really interesting. And you know what? I'll make a highlight video of this hand that we just discussed. And so what you can do on Twitch is like, instead of like, you can make a recording of parts of the video and call it a highlight. Okay. And I'll send you the link for that. So if you want to send that to the people in chat so they can see, the people when they listen to the podcast, if they want to like see it visually,
we'll do that.
Might be kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay. We'll put a link in the show notes with this hand, and just scroll down and we'll title it Pocket Aces and Carlos's Pocket Aces, and then you can click on that and then watch the video of this. So definitely check out his Twitch stream. It's really cool. It's definitely a free way to learn poker and quite entertaining as well. And you just go to www.twitch.tv/Carlos Welch, or you can just click on the link in the show notes. That'd probably be a heck of a lot easier. But you guys check out TPE as well. You can click on the link in the show notes to go to Tournament Poker Edge. Get Carlos and I are both members, and that's where I watch videos every day from there. And I know Carlos studies there as well. You can see us in the forums. And thank you guys for tuning in. And here is your weekly motivational speech.
I've often said that I wish people could realize all their dreams and wealth and fame so that they could see that it's not where you're going to find your sense of completion. I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. Why not take a chance on faith as well? Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire and faith leaps over it. You are ready and able to do beautiful things in this world.
As a child, my parents always told me you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. But I didn't totally believe it. Yet I went out in the world and I carried myself and I held my head high and I stood there and I looked people in their eyes and I talked to people as if I was deserving of everything that this planet has to offer. Confucius said one time, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right.